Welcome to the Royal Tunbridge Wells Symphony Orchestra's celebration of International Women's Day 2021. We were due to have played an amazing concert yesterday in the Assembly Hall, featuring Alice Farnham as a guest conductor, conducting 3 works by women composers. That would have been the first time a woman conductor had ever stepped on the podium in front of the Royal Tunbridge Wells Symphony Orchestra. Unfortunately, the concert was cancelled, although we are working very hard to try and put a very similar programme on just as soon as we can. Instead, I have had the privilege of meeting, remotely, of course, Sylvia Villa, one of the composers whose work, Sortilège, was on that very programme, and finding out a little bit more about this rising star in the classical music composition firmament.
Hi, my name is Sylvia Villa and I am the composer of the symphony orchestra piece called Sortilège.
So firstly, Sylvia, what is your connection to Tunbridge Wells?
And essentially I grew up here. We moved when I was about 5 years old. I went to Langton Green Primary School and Tunbridge Wells Girls Grammar School, and because I started the piano quite young, I was always part of the choirs and orchestras, and it was those experiences that really influenced me to pursue this career in the first place.
And after that, where did you go to study?
I went to study at the Royal Welsh College of Music and Drama, which was an incredible experience. I never thought I would go to a music college or a conservatoire. It's just something I never thought was on the cards for me. So getting in was a huge surprise and incredibly daunting, but I had an amazing time and I learned a lot. It definitely pushed me to my limits in more ways than you would think, but I met some amazing people and had some amazing collaborative experiences.
When did you decide that you wanted to be a composer?
And I don't think I have a particular time or place. I was always drawn to the creative sides of all the different art forms, and when it came to music, I think it took me a long time to find composition. Most of my life was always geared towards performing, until GCSE, when we had to compose because that was one of our modules. And that was probably the first experience I had writing a piece from start to finish towards a particular end goal. And I ended up finding I really enjoyed the process. It was something I felt I could do, and something I just wanted to pursue further. And I also have a huge love of ballet, and I think as soon as I'd found that I loved composition, I had this dream to write my own ballet, which still stands today. It's still my ultimate career goal.
What was your first major work and how was that received?
And I probably have to say Sortilège was definitely one of my first major works. I'd never had an opportunity to write for symphony orchestra before that, and it was something I'd always wanted to do. So having the opportunity to have it performed by the BBC National Orchestra of Wales was just a fantastic experience, and it really taught me a lot. And another piece would be Looking Glass, which was a piece I wrote for mixed ensemble and solo dance, which of course is really special to me because it has that added dance aspect. And it was my first time creating and running a show entirely by myself. And for both Sortilège and Looking Glass, I had some lovely comments and amazing reviews, which have really helped me shape what sort of music I want to go on to create, what sort of projects I want to do, and what my style is ultimately as a composer.
What is the inspiration behind Sortilège, and what does the title mean?
And this piece was loosely inspired by the witches' prison in St Osyth in Essex. I think it's known as the Cage, and it's a place where many women who were accused of practicing witchcraft were imprisoned from 1582 to 1908. And the title means foretelling by divination. So the piece is about 6 minutes long and is scored for a full symphony orchestra. It includes instruments like piano, harp, vibraphone and celesta, which really help give it the magical and eerie atmosphere that it has. The piece could be seen as being quite impressionistic. However, there is a narrative that does hold it all together, which is the fact that it illustrates the process of divination. So the first section is quite eerie, and it has qualities that are quite reminiscent and ruminating, and as you go through the piece, certain visions are starting to be captured, as if you're starting to see glimmers of the future. And then you are entered into this trance-like state as the visions take over until you hit the final prophecy. And that is the big climactic point about 2/3 of the way into the piece. And then after that you enter into the aftermath as the vision fades and everything comes to pass.
What works do you have in the pipeline?
And currently I have a couple of things I'm working on. I'm working on a piece for the Orchestra de Culturen in Berlin, and they are an international orchestra that use instruments all over the world, and I'm writing a piece for them. There's no set deadline yet because of the pandemic. I have recently completed writing a suite of piano pieces which I am planning to turn into an album, which is going to be called The Keynote, and I'm really excited to complete that and have people listen to it for the first time.
Have you found it hard to make your mark as a female composer?
And I think this is quite hard for me to answer right now, because I feel like I'm more in the process of making my mark rather than having made my mark. And I only graduated in 2019, and then, well, around 6 months later we were heading into lockdown. So I haven't had all that much experience as a professional in the industry. I never felt in college that I was ever discriminated because of my gender. I'd say some people can be quite surprised when you're a woman who is a composer and doing a job which a lot of people do still see as something men do more often. But I hope that that is all changing, and the more of us that go into these fields, the less unusual it will be.
And finally, what advice would you give to any girls who might be watching and who might want themselves one day to become a composer?
And I'd say the best piece of advice I could give is, if you really want to do it, you're going to be fine. I'd say that is the main thing you need in order to pursue any career, because you're going to make the decisions and put the effort in to get where you want, whereas if you don't want to do it enough, you're not going to make those efforts and put that effort in.
Thank you very much to Sylvia for chatting to us today, and I'm sure we're all looking forward immensely to playing and hearing your work, Sortilège, in the Assembly Hall Theatre.